my rule of thumb is in development, whatever I think I'm going to make, I cut that in half, and then I cut that in half again. And somewhere you end up between the lower half and the middle half every time for years.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer, and excited to have Scott Boruff on the show. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I found a place to sit and jump on this podcast and have some fun.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. And Scott's a visionary real estate developer, deal maker. He's raised over $1 billion in debt and equity to fund high impact developments. And look, he's done a lot of projects: golf, retail, residential, adaptive reuse, tons of experience in a lot of different things, doing things non-traditional. And so I want to dive in to kind of what you've been doing, and you own multiple businesses too. It's not just the real estate, so we can maybe dive into both of those. But
Yeah.
Scott, why don't you give our listeners a bit more maybe about your background, what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show. And I kind of categorize my life in two categories. I come from a real estate development background family. My dad was real estate and insurance his whole life. So I kind of followed in his footprints. So real estate's always been in my blood. But so for the first, I guess, half of my life, I did real estate development, starting with me and my two brothers used to have competitions on fix and flips, who can buy a house and fix it and flip it and make the most gross margins per year. And that evolved into buying apartments and multifamily, which evolved into wanting to own 1,000 apartment units in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I got up to about 500 units. And I'm like, I'm doing this wrong. This is not working. These numbers don't work. Buying 10 units here and 20 units there, and seller financing, owner financing. But I had two good mentors, Jerry Lombardo out of New Jersey and Bill Freeman out of Nashville, that owned 16,000 units and 6,000 units. Said, Scott, you're doing it wrong. You just get rid of all that stuff. You need to get some operational excellence going, because I was scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't make money. So
Yeah.
literally sold all that. And if you couldn't own 100 units or more, then it didn't work for that model. But I just love real estate. I mean, again, later stage of my life, I'm doing, larger, just add a few more zeros to the real estate. But it's all, at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's all the same process, whether you're spending $50,000 on a house to fix and flip or $50 million on a development. You got to check your boxes, and you got to learn those boxes, sometimes the hard way. One of my, which comes to fruition. We was doing a small development there, about 100-unit subdivision. So I love buying dirt. I love rehabbing dirt. I love taking dirt from agricultural to residential, because you're getting that bump in appreciation. And whether you develop it or not, you can sell it and make money. This is one of the first ones we developed. It was a great deal, and sat in a barn with this gentleman for probably 6 months trying to get him to sign a contract. And he was just old man Geen was his name. And he's like, Scott, I'm not going to sign that contract. I'll sell you the property for X, but I've had too many people come by here. And so sure enough, 2 days before we closed, I said, I got to have you sign the contract. We're closing Friday. And I promise, so I'd built enough rapport by that time. But, something we did not do at the time, so we didn't do soil borings, soil tests, because it was farmland. It looked good. In Knoxville and East Tennessee, we don't run into rocks. Mostly in Nashville, you have rocks everywhere. And so, long story short, came up with about, 30,000 cubic yards of unsuitable soil. So instead of hitting rock, which is a big issue, we had soil. We couldn't hit the ground. So having a big pile of dirt sitting on a development wasn't good. If you don't need it, everybody loves topsoil, but if you don't need it, it's expensive. So it took about $1.6 million profit that we had on that job down to about 800,000. Just cut it in half.
Cut it in half. Wow.
Yeah. And so my rule of thumb is in development, whatever I think I'm going to make, I cut that in half, and then I cut that in half again. And somewhere you end up between the lower half and the middle half every time for years. And yeah,
I think that's a good rule of thumb for probably most businesses, right? It just
Yeah.
like
You can pencil whip
anything.
something to death. You can
Yeah.
make it look good on paper, but it's the real life. And so later on, we went to GMAX fixed contract. So for the rest of the developments, I said, "Hey guys, here's the property, here's the plans. You
Mm.
go do your core drilling. You go do whatever you need to do, but give me a flat price because this is what I'm paying." And if
Yeah.
sometimes we paid more and sometimes we paid less, but it worked out good for us and everybody. But so the first half of my life was just structured finance development and kept itching up, doing Starbuckses and golf courses and just everything that came to us strategically. Looked
So
at
are
a lot
you
of.
developing these at that time and keeping them, or are you developing them for other groups that are gonna
Yeah, we were developing them and selling them. We were in the
sell
early
them?
growth stage, develop and sell, master
Yep.
plan.
Yep.
Um, and you'd lose $1 million on this deal and you make 3 million on this deal. So again, if you didn't have all the
Mm.
losses, you'd have been retired a long time ago. But that's half the game and half the battle is coming in and figuring out what the problem was.
Yeah.
And then I saw that movie, 19, I don't know, 87, the original Wall Street movie, where the guy was walking down the beach and saying, "I can remember when 800,000 was a good year. Now it's just a good day." And I'm like, man, what does that guy do? And he was in private equity and took companies public. And so I was like, went and got my Series 7 license. And I
Mm.
called my guy in New York and said, I passed the test. And he's like, "You passed?" And I was like, "It was the hardest test I've ever taken in my life. It's about 800 pages, thick, the study book." And he said, "Well, since you passed, we manage your own funds. You need to go get your 66." So I went and got my 66 and started working out in New York, flying up there every week, literally fly up
Mm.
on Monday, come back on Thursday, and learning how, stepping out of the box, taking risks on how to take private companies public, but learning with good mentors. And so that's kind of what's rolled me into where I'm at today. So I'm running a public company. I've ranked the NASDAQ, had the pleasure of ranking the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. And so I always begin with the end in mind. So the company we're running today is Safe Space Global, which is a AI tech company that helps save lives in schools, prisons, healthcare, nursing homes, and transportation. So you can imagine at a school, wherever your school is, ours is predictive analytics. So we're AI first, camera agnostic. So our AI looks into the parking lot and it does three things. It identifies the person, place, or thing. What is it? It detects the threat. Is it a gun? Is it a knife? Is it a bomb? And once it sees that, it alerts the school resource officer. The
Oh,
police,
wow.
yeah, the policeman, the school resource officer gets our video clip and texts and says, "Yeah, that's a gun." He pushes a button, calls 911, locks the school down, and cameras are reactive. Our software is proactive. So having a fun time growing that company, and so again, I wear two hats in life. One is raising capital, growing teams, building products, scaling public companies, and then exiting them. And the other one's just still, I have a private equity fund with my partner there in Nashville, Tennessee, Coach Michael Burp. And we have a small private equity fund. So instead of me doing one-off deals, I was like, man, let's just get a group of us, raise capital, throw it in the fund, allocate the allocations to whatever our friends want to get into. And we do not do a lot of deals. Like we do a couple deals a year, but they're just really good deals. So 37 years of real estate broker and stuff, you see a lot of deals. So we just closed on the Bend. It's called the Bend in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so it's like 120-acre mixed use development,
So
multifamily.
you have to develop it right now?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I came in the latter part. One of my, again, your net worth is your network. So my 30-year network creates a tremendous amount of deal flow. And I got a call about a year ago and said, "Hey, I got two partners and I want to buy one of them out. One of them's a big hotel developer. Those hotel guys get those coupons every month, so they're not patient development money. Like this is his pro forma had him at this stage in 2 years, and it's been 4 years.
Hmm.
And so me, when he called, and I went down there and kicked the tires, looked at the dirt, and I was like, "Wow, you've taken all the risk out of it." And he had, and part of what he had done is got like $135 million tax increment financing
Oh,
TIF
wow.
go along with it, and so it's the third largest that's ever been done in the state,
Hmm.
second to the Tennessee Stadium, football stadium in Nashville, and Oracle. So And that took a lot of time. And his other partners just like they weren't patient. Money, big deals, you have to be patient because things never go as you plan. It's just
Oh yeah.
almost kind of comical as to what's going to go wrong that we haven't thought about. And we've been doing this for years.
And that's
Uh,
something it's how long have you been in the real estate game? How many years?
37 years as a real estate broker. I'm 62 years old.
So those of you who are listening to this, listen to what Scott just said. Like, it's something's going to go wrong. It's almost comical. Like,
Yeah.
it's just you don't know what's going to go wrong, but something will go wrong in every deal you do. It's just what is it going to be that we haven't learned yet?
Yeah.
After doing that for over 30 years, you're still learning lessons. And
Yeah.
so,
Every day.
yeah, so for those of you who are banging your head against the wall because you made another mistake, don't worry. It's going to
Call
keep on
me. I'll
happening.
make
Like
you feel good. My older brother calls me when he has a bad day. He calls me, he says, because he knows I've had a worse day.
yeah.
It makes him feel good. Yeah.
Hey, tell me what happened today so I can feel good about myself.
Exactly. Yeah. I've got stories of it. You can't make it up. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's great. So for with this project that you've got going on, what developments are you doing in
Yeah. So the
that
good
site?
news is for this one, we've got 120 acres. It's padded up. Jimmy has brought all the stormwater sewer to actually build a road.
Hmm.
He's been getting permitted, the site approved for like a Margaritaville, just got a permit for 300 boat slips on the water. So it's a real sexy project
Oh yeah.
in what they call the quantum computing of Chattanooga. And so we announced Jailhouse Rock. So we bought the jail from the city as part of the bend during this process and this hard deal. Like the city's like, what are we going to do with this jail? And it's in the opportunity zone. So we have opportunity zone funds. And so
Hmm.
we made them an offer to buy it for $100, buy the 6-story jail for $100 on a 50-year lease, which allowed us to, if you do a 50-year or more lease, it's treated as if you own it. So
Right.
we can, we
Finance
can
it.
pledge that to the bank for
Yep.
at least $10 million equity and go borrow $40 million retrofit it and do T&I and make it a usable, functional place. And we're going to put it's kind of be at the intersection of movies and music. And we've got
Hmm.
Usher, some of the biggest movie stars and musicians congregating are going to be a part of it, which drives everything else. And so
Hmm.
the venue, if you haven't heard of the venue, it's a publicly traded company. JW Roth is the CEO of it. So he's got this cool amphitheater, Vegas style Sphere, 12,000 seat amphitheater with, 6 or 8,000 seats are down by the stage, and the other 4,000 are fire pits. So you got these big, beautiful fire pits, listen to
Hmm.
concerts, on the water in downtown Chattanooga. I'm like, it's going to be a fun deal.
Let's
And
go.
again, for us, owning the dirt with our partners, we can either, as we pad up a site, say a multifamily site that you're very good at owning and developing and syndicating out. I'll come to people like you and say, hey, do you want to bring your developer over here? Like we're looking at, some of the nation's largest developers coming in, doing what they do best and rolling out 350 apartments on pad number one and a hotel guy, taking pad 10 and us as our investors can either put our equity, like that pad is worth $10 million and the hotel's 50. We can have 20% of that hotel and let
Yep. Yeah.
develop it. So we can either sell the land off and distribute cash or be a piece and part of everything, which that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I like that way of doing deals. Like how did you come up with that idea of doing a deal like that? You've got a whole site and now you're going to break it up into pads and you're going to bring on developers. It's a lot of people want to do everything themselves, but you're saying, hey, we're gonna bring in the best of developer that wants to develop, 200 single family homes. We're gonna or whatever in a hotel and this and that. So take me through that, I guess decision making. Why go that route versus the other
You,
way?
if you had money and you were a certified rich person, you just do the whole thing yourself. But what it does for us, it just kind of de-risked you know, the
Mm,
whole pad. I mean, the whole site. And so when you can bring a national developer in that's got 50,000 apartment units, and they develop their apartment units,
mhm,
they need more product and they need
mhm.
better sites. And so Could we do it? Yes. It would take 20 years versus 7 years. So we
Yeah.
need
Well,
all
there's
the
another thing too,
together.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Velocity.
exactly. Yeah, that's it. And so
Yeah.
we can do it all. It'll take us 20 years and I'll be, in my 80s by then, or we can do it in 7 years and have a beautiful project finished that we can enjoy and our kids can enjoy and the grands can enjoy. And so that's kind of the passion behind it.
Yeah. No, I like that. Getting other people involved and getting a little bit of
Capital
something like,
preservation, right? So at this
yeah.
age, it's like, hey, you go screw up on a piece of it, that's bad. But you bring in the experts that do what they do best, and then let them, let everybody, it's about the team.
Yeah. And de-risking, look, I mean, it's great to own 100% of the pie, but you also have 100% of the risk at
Yes.
that point in time. And your ability to execute on that becomes that much more difficult versus bringing in these experts that are the best in class at a hotel development or whatever it might be, de-risks the situation. And like you said, allows it to get done quickly, so everybody can enjoy it and everybody can profit on it too. So
Yeah, yeah, and
that's
that's key, and it's fun, and I get excited about seeing other people take action, which is the problem that I see over and over and over, day,
mm,
day, day. Here we're into half the month of January, and are you going to do this deal? Yes or no? It's real simple. You like it, do it, take action, and go after it. If you've checked your boxes, do it. But I've got the most conservative wife. She just thinks I'm crazy, but I've been that way my whole life. So it's she would think about it, think about it, think about it. But that's why we make a good pair. I was like, well, what do you think's right and what do you think's wrong? What feels good, what feels bad, and then I bring her to the projects and let her see it because a lot of times
mm,
doing that, my dad always said, if you don't have time to go see a project, then you don't need to do it.
yeah,
Like I had that
yeah,
question asked to me at an investor dinner here in New York last night, like we in the public company side that I run, we have an office in India, and one of the big check writers is like, "Have you been to India?" And I said, "Absolutely." Again, I have 50 employees over there. I've been to India. Inspect what you expect, and so
yeah.
I've sold some properties that I didn't have time as I grew up that I didn't have time to go see, just because my dad instilled that in my head, like, "Hey, if you don't have time to go check on your properties, then you don't need to own them." So
That's certainly a good rule of thumb, especially for those listening who are buying out of state. I hear from a lot of people, I don't know if you like have paid attention to but there's a industry that popped up probably out of the GFC, that what do they call it? People were buying these single family homes. I mean, sight unseen. Some guy in, you know, Gary, Indiana
yeah,
was doing turnkey how turnkey. They're buying turnkey houses. And they've never seen them. They've never inspected them. They don't ever go see them, and then
yeah.
they expect great results. It's like, okay, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And again, having we would in the phase of life that we're in, we would rather have less than more. Like
Yeah.
less, optimize it,
Mm.
understand it, monetize it. And because I've made that mistake too. Like, again, with that 40, 400 units spread all over town, like I was on my way in mind thinking I was getting to 1,000 units, but it's really thought I had, 100 units at one facility, take that cash flow because I maximized the ROI on it. Then I could have taken that and grown that exponentially quicker than I did these one and two offs.
Yeah.
But you can't start out just, in the big leagues. And I had, when I was young, I always had the pleasure of having people that trusted me. So I would find the deal, I would work the deal, they would write a check. I would call them up and say, send me $500,000. We bought this shopping center. So I would actually own half the equity in the shopping center. I would go sign on the debt
Mm.
and I would manage that shopping center. So I wouldn't charge any management fees. That was part of my equity. And then we'd monetize them and sell them. And
Yep.
that was a really
Yep.
good, there's the deal and there's the money.
Yep.
Whoever brings the deal and works the deal and whoever brings the money, it's like, you got time, you got money, but you can't, a lot of times you can't have both.
So
So
uh, you talk about, you bought these. It's your path is kind of similar to mine. I didn't go in the development route, but you talk about buying these like 20 unit, 40 unit small deals and them not working. I'm assuming it's because it's just it's hard to run those deals. You can't, there's nobody on site.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta, you can't, so showings and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
maintenance, and like you
Yeah.
can't have a maintenance guy there all day. Like,
Right.
so yeah, there's difficulty in that. Um, but if you were to do it over again, would you still like knowing what you know now, but going, hey, yeah, but reality is where I was, 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Would you do that same way over again because it got you where you are? Or do you say, no, 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 no. If I'm a young guy starting over, this is the better route?
Yeah. I mean, if I was a young guy starting over, I would be more patient. Because
Mm,
again, our family had money. My dad said, you know, I didn't get anything. He's like, we're going to spend all of our inheritance. So he's like, but I'm going to give you a taste of the good life. But which is what I got. I got it. I didn't have 10 pair of shoes. I had one pair of shoes that was the nicest shoes. I didn't have a brand new car, but I had a used car that was, his philosophy is when you go buy a new car, and it is when you drive off the lot, you lose 10, 15% that day. So it's a
or
used
more.
car right
Yeah.
after you buy it. And so I just take a lot of those into effect. But I would do that. I mean, again, um, finding that right partner and even going and training. I actually uh, coach people, not for a living, but just to have a app that they come in and call, just need advice. And this guy's 25 years old and he's really passionate about it. And he's wanting to quit his private equity job. I said, don't quit that yet. Just keep that because you're on a great trajectory there. But if your passion is buying houses and selling houses, I mean, he's literally he raised like $300,000 from three guys and goes in Knoxville, Tennessee, in my backyard. He's 2 hours away.
Hmm.
Buys a $50,000 piece of land, builds a 1,600 square foot house for 200 grand. So he's got a builder building the house, and he's doing the site. He's doing all the paperwork and the engineering and title and all that stuff. But he's got like 250 grand in his house, and on the street that it's on, they sell for like $400,000. And so because he's finding the land, sending out the direct mailers, talking to the people, doing all the work, and he's getting that embedded equity by his sweat equity versus just going and paying retail.
Right.
It's a listed property, and so he sent me his portfolio. He's done 7 transactions and made a little less than 700 grand on 7 transactions in 2 years. I'm like, as a 25-year-old kid, I'm like, wow, you're. And he sent me a leverage buyout model the other day that would have taken me a month to do, and one of the guys I'm looking at, he did it over the weekend. I'm like, so I'm gonna grab him and put him in our in our company soon. He does it
Yeah, I was
all.
gonna say that 25. I was ambitious, but not doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I'd made it my first million by the time I was 30 and went bankrupt by the time I was 31. So I've been done it all. Like I don't want to do that again. That was one of the hardest lessons in my life too. Is like, I was feeling sorry for myself for about a day because I was 1.5 million in debt, and I'm walking down Gatlinburg the street, and there's this bum eating out of a trash can popcorn. I'm
Mm,
like, man, I feel sorry for that guy, and I'm thinking to myself, but at least he's at cash flow neutral. He's at ground zero. I'm 1.5 million in debt and broke, but so that was something that's always stuck with me as well. It don't matter where you are. Don't matter where you are, what you have. There's always people that have more than you, and there's always people that have less than you. Just be happy
yeah,
exactly where you are.
yeah.
You know.
What did it take to dig out of that? That's a pretty tough lesson to learn at 31 years old,
Yeah.
especially when you were
I,
riding high on life at 30. You're
yeah.
feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, I was just, the lesson I took is I kind of worked myself out of a marriage. My family had money, her family had money. We had a kid. That's my 37-year-old now. And I worked so hard growing an insurance agency and real estate company, literally, that I just didn't pay attention to family, and that was bad.
Mm,
And another one of my principles behind every good man is a woman that understands business and entrepreneurs and the goods and the bads. And if you've got a wife or a girlfriend that don't understand that, then life's even tougher. But I'm up here in New York all week, and she's back home taking Christmas decorations down. But she understands what I have to do when I have to do it, and we get it done.
yeah, yeah. It's it's so important to have somebody that understands the life of an entrepreneur, but also as an entrepreneur to understand the burden
Yeah.
that can put on the other person too, and to have that balance there as much as you can, right? It's never a perfect. I hate the word balance and work-life balance because
Yeah.
it's never a balance. It's a juggle. It's more of a juggling act, isn't
It's a
it? Like
juggling. It's a juggle. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's more like the correct way to think of it. It's a juggling act, and sometimes it's going to be a lot of stress on your spouse, and but you got to be able to make up for that. You got to be able to work
Yeah.
around um, those things. And of course, you definitely, as an entrepreneur, you can't just expect your spouse to deal with it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
I don't tell her everything. There's some
Yeah.
things she doesn't need to know, but and to finish up that story, like my dad's, when I went to my dad, I was like, I need to borrow you 1.5 million. And he looked at me and said, son, you made this ditch. You can dig yourself out of it.
Mm,
Divorce. He said, you can sleep on the couch. We'll feed you, but I'm not digging you out. He could. And I was probably sitting where I'm at now thinking, boy, if one of my kids came to me like, we want to give our kids everything, but he could have, but he's like, that's probably the best lesson I learned in life is like, I did this. I can fall on the sword. He'll protect me. He loves me. He'll do whatever, but he's not just going to bail me out.
yeah.
And that's helped, And two, he said, you only have one name. Don't run it. And so I literally went to each one of those banks that were my friends because First Tennessee Bank had loaned me 17 loans. And I had money from every bank in town. I went to each one of them and said, even though I have to file the judges, I went to file Chapter 13, which is reorganization. But when I went broke and got divorced, I lost my job. And it was like, the judge like, you can't pay it off. You don't have any money. So he forced me into Chapter 7,
Mm,
just total liquidation, which at that time I didn't have anything to liquidate. But I went back to the banks and said, if you'll give me 7 years, I'll pay every one of you back, 1.5 million. And I did that, paid them all back, and that, I kind of take pride in that.
mm,
Like the banker's like, you don't have to do this. We've already written it off. I said, I know you've written it off, but I borrowed money from you, and here it is to you, and you know that I paid you back. And all those bankers have made me loans. They switched banks, but they made loans for the rest of my life. I mean,
yeah.
it carried, when I got back up, which is nice.
Yeah. That's great. Um, you've raised a lot of money. I think you raised over $1 billion in equity. Let's talk a little bit about that. How do you raise that type of money? Let's get in a little bit of the dirt, into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. And some, if you like structured finance, I don't know if we've talked about it online or
Mhm.
offline, but like if I look at a project or a building, there's always I like the hairy deals. I like the ones that has issues with them. The ones that the bankruptcy trustee calls me and says, "Hey, we got this deal, and we need it off our books." And a divorced person that's getting divorced, that's got a $3 or $4 million house, they're getting divorced, and I can pick it up for 1.5 million from the bank. Um, it's like banks have their rules, we have our rules, and so I can give you multiple choices, but most people don't think outside the box. So, um, a building that I bought. So downtown Knoxville, 505 Gay Street. Guy's going through a divorce. It's a 130,000 square foot building, 10 floor. See, 13 floors, so 10,000 feet of floor. It's got a 0.95 debt service coverage, so nobody can finance it, right? So you got,
Yep.
you know, it's got a 50% occupancy rate, so it doesn't cash flow. But the building itself was an A location and a C building. And I'm like, man, this is a good deal.
But it's
And
bleeding cash.
bleeding cash,
Yeah.
but it's an A location,
Yeah.
AAA location, and a C property. 1970s building. And so I went to the seller that was getting divorced and said, "Hey, we'll give you $4 million for it." He's like, "Well,
Mm,
it praises for 6." I said, "I don't care if it praises for 10. Nobody can finance it. Nobody can buy it. And if I spent $4 million of cash buying it, the return on equity isn't there. So we'll buy it for $4 million, but you got to give us 90 days." He said, "What do you need 90 days for?" I said, "Well, we're going to take the building and we're going to chop it up and make it a condo." So it was one office building when
mm,
we went. We went to MPC, got it rezoned, put the office condo plats. Now each floor is a dedicated floor. Now it's a condominium regime. Wrote all the documents for that, got them filed, platted. And then we went and got bank appraisals on it. And of course, the appraisal came in at like $6 million. But what do banks do? We're going to give you appraised value or cost, whichever is less,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I said, great. I said, so we're going to give you 10 floors of this building, Mr. Banker. And those 10 floors appraised for like, call it $5 million. And my cost is $4 million. So he's still going to loan me 80% of $4 million. So there's $3.2 million in my money, right? Now I got 3 floors left. There's me and my attorney partner and my other business partner. We all have businesses. We all just gave ourselves a floor because it's free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take to our bank, and the bank says, well, cost or so the appraisal on those 3 floors came in at like $3 million, call it. So each one of us borrowed like $300,000, on our floors, put in the pot. Now we have 3.2 plus 9, so we have $4.1 million to buy a $4 million building. So we go to close it. There's $250,000 in deposits from all the office tenants. So we close it with $250,000 plus like $350,000 cash at closing, and no money in the deal. And I've got 30 of those just like that. That it's legal, it's legit. You check all the boxes. The bank understands, and they're like, "Wow, this is pretty cool," and it's a good deal. And then we immediately took the cash that we had because we had about 18 months worth of burned off because it was losing money, and redesigned it. Had our architects look at it for apartments, for condos, and for a hotel. And about 12 months into the deal, one of the big hotel developers came in and bought it from us for $7 million, and we flipped it. And he's got a beautiful Embassy Suites hotel, rooftop bar, and he's crushing it. So he got a good deal, we got a good deal, and so just
It's a good flip.
the moral of the story is, structured finance. I bought, second or third house. The Applebee's developer was getting divorced. He had spent 3.2 million on his house. He owed $1.6 million on it. I went to the bank and said, I really don't like the outside of the house, but it's a beautiful 13,000 square foot house. I'll take it off your hands. It's like, great. Just, he owes $1.6 million. We need you to put, $250,000 down, whatever 20% of that was down, and we'll do the deal. And I'm like, no, you didn't hear me. I'm going to buy it at auction when you're real estate owned, and it's going to be bad for you, or you can make me a first for $1,320,000 and a second for $250,000, and I'll close on it next month. And that's what they did. So again, it's not my problem, it's your problem, but I'll take it, and it's a win-win.
Yep.
So just over and over and over. I mean, just in shopping centers after
How are you finding these distressed deals? It seems like those are the unicorns that everybody wants to find. Maybe you can't give us the secret recipe, but how do you find those types of deals?
honestly, it's networking. Your network is your net worth, and it's literally networking. We networked early on with a lot of lawyers, a lot of trustees, a lot of real estate lawyers, a lot of banks. So I could hear every bank's real estate department in the whole South. I just knew their people, and their job is to get it off the books.
Yep.
And we call them up and say, well, we're not quite there yet. Why don't you write that down again and call us back next month? Write that down, call us again next month. And then when it finally got time, when it was, time to do it, it was great. So we just, again, being patient and looking and learning, and just like the Bend, right? I knew it was developing. I knew it was a great project. I didn't know the other 2 partners wanted out, and we were able to assimilate, put the money together. Yep. And we literally bought shares of it for $200 and call it $50,000 a share. And by the time we closed, we're selling shares at $1 million a share. So again, you're making money when you buy. And of course, those investors are excited. Like, what can we do now?
Yeah.
Like, well,
what do you got for us next, Scott?
Yeah, you gotta wait, So I don't, we look at 100 and pick one, but most deals aren't good, right? I mean, again, anything that's listed on the market, it's been picked over, looked at, it's been back pocketed, and they couldn't sell it out of the back pocket, so they finally list it, and so it's just a lot of digging, honestly.
That's the problem with most deals, is that you're competing against everybody who's interested. And so that might be 20, 30, 50 people that you're competing against, and whoever's willing to pay the most. I was at an event the other week, and somebody was asking me, we were talking about, telling stories and to sell properties, and a younger guy's like, "Is that true?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's absolutely true. Whoever can tell the best story to get the most amount of people to believe it, it's going to sell the building for the most amount." It's like,
Yeah.
and the one who believes the story the most is the one that's going to pay more than everybody.
Yeah.
So, and the stories might not be lies. They're just, you know,
No, it's it. No, you're right. It's, there's good stories, there's bad stories. I mean, we developed a golf course, and it was good. I mean, I learned, and again, tell you how much it works. So I'd fly there every week. We had to buy a plane because flying out of Knoxville to New Orleans it'd take a whole day to fly versus an hour and 20, 30 minutes with your private plane. So we put that in the budget, put that in the deal because it's part of the deal, and developed a beautiful golf course. And while we're doing that, we're looking at another golf course, and again from the state of, I think it was Arkansas. And I'm like, no, I really don't want to do that deal. I really don't want to do that deal because this deal was tough enough that we finally got this deal. We finally got off of $40 million worth of personal notes uh, by floating a bond for the infrastructure. So I was comfortable in the deal. And there's two other partners. And one of the partners had, already pledged our assets to their asset. And he's like, I've already pledged it, man. I'm the GP. You got to sign, and we're going to go do this other deal. And I'm like, I don't let our friendship get in front of our deals. So here's what we're going to do. We did it on our plane back in an hour and a half, pulled out a napkin. So you give me $5 million for my third, and you sign a note. And if that deal's good that you're fixing to do, my note will be good. If that deal's bad, my note will be bad. But I've already went bankrupt, and I don't feel good about, when you see a Piggly Wiggly in the area, it's a rural area. I said, so I'm just not confident that deal happening. And that was oh 06 going into 08. And I can tell you what happened to his deal, and I can tell you what happened to my note. His deal went down the toilet, and my note, it's hanging on the wall, is, lesson number 38. But again, sometimes the best deals you do are the ones that you
yeah,
don't. I guess is the
yeah.
moral of that story. So
That's so true. Yeah.
yeah, and we're still best friends to this day, literally.
Well, that's always good.
Yeah.
Look, I want to actually, I don't, you said something earlier that I think is really important. I don't want to glaze over that. I think it's super important for the listeners to hear, especially when we're talking about creative deals. You talked about that deal where you worked the condo deal and you got these banks, and you ended up basically getting paid to get this deal closed. But you said something that's super important, and you said it quickly, and it was, we did it right. Everybody knew about it, and we didn't do anything illegal. And that is so important when you're doing creative deals, that everybody understands what's happening.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
when you're trying to get these banks involved, and you're trying to get investors involved, and whoever else involved, everything you do, you need to make sure everybody understands what you're doing. Of course, do it legally in the first place,
Yep.
but beyond doing it legally, disclose everything to
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
you
Because
want to you want to make sure they understand it, and I've learned those lessons through watching some other people make some pretty big mistakes
yeah.
and not disclosing some things. And one guy that is in jail that I can think of right now because he
Well,
just
they'll
didn't
do it.
disclose
Literally.
things. He
Yeah.
was doing things creatively,
Yeah.
but it was a little too creatively. So
Yeah. Well, and then again, you know, just there's you know a quick story. The shopping center again in Alpharetta, Georgia. Got a call from the trustee. I got this deal. Well, actually, it was one of my partners down there. He called and said, "Hey, I got this deal." The trustee had called him, and he called me, and he said, "We need to close on the shop center. It's a $3 million shop center. It's 13,000 square feet, full." But these three Italians that owned it have been fighting for 9 years. So how can a shopping center be in bankruptcy if you don't owe any debt on the shopping center?
hmm.
Because they're arguing, and the judge forced it into bankruptcy so they could quit their lawsuit. So that was
Wow.
kind of kind of weird, right? Like I didn't know that. I thought, how can you go bankrupt if $3 million piece of real estate doesn't have any debt on it? Well,
Yeah.
do it in bankruptcy, forced to sell. And we
Oh
had
my
30,
gosh.
yeah, we get the deal. We only had like 32 days to close. So, to go raise $3 million from a bank, even though it's a good deal, you can't do that in 32 days. So we had to go get a hard money lender.
Hmm.
So I made some calls, knew some hard monies, went down there and they actually had a 95% loan to cost. And I went down there and so we got 32 days, 35 days, 15 days of due diligence. So always got to check all the boxes, 270 pages of title to reading all the stuff. And now I'm comfortable to go buy it. Right. And now I've only got 15 days. So that's just a hard money lender. So this guy gave me a term sheet for, you know, 3,850,000, which was 5% down, which is kind of still unheard of, even for me. And I was like, this is just a term sheet. I need a commitment letter. And he looked at me and says, I'm the one writing you the check. This is your commitment letter. Give me 15 grand. We'll close in 2 weeks. I'm like,
Hmm.
so I, you know, experienced a lot of raised capital, seen a lot of stuff. I'm like, man, that just still doesn't feel right. Like I
Yeah.
want commitment letters,
Yeah.
but I gave him the 15 because we had to do it. The only problem the shopping center had through our due diligence has a few leaks in the roof, which I disclosed to the lender,
Yep.
and that the tenants were still fighting. So the people that we bought out were still fighting. And so
Hmm.
we went and started negotiating those guys. But we were going to pay them 50 grand just to leave because they had the anchors and
Yeah.
tenants at the end. And so we negotiated that out. But one day before the closing, the lender called and says, I got good news and bad news. I said, here's where you get screwed right here. He said, I need you to put up $400,000
Oh.
because it needs a new uh, $100,000 roof, and we're gonna make you put back $300,000 for the lease that they still have. And I said, we've got a bid on the roof. It's 40 grand for a new one. And I said, we've got a contract for them for 50 grand to get them out. We're paying them 50 grand to get them out. He said, well, I don't care. This is what it takes to close the deal. I'm like, I just got woolooed. So again, get on a phone call. I didn't have 400 grand. Made a few phone calls, and one of my mentors, Bill Freeman, who's now passed away, wired the money in. Literally, they had the trustees sitting in our closing office at 5 o'clock because this had already been signed. It was in trust. So if we didn't close,
You're
they were
losing.
taking it back. They were losing the money
Hmm.
and losing the center.
Hmm.
So he sent the wire in about 20 minutes before closing, and we got that deal done. Ended up getting them out, flipping the shopping center to another lender. So he owned the shopping center. We ended up with the vacant land that was adjacent to it, and we
Hmm.
built a Starbucks on it. So we ended up with it free and clear. Ended up going to get a construction loan to build a Starbucks, which is why that lender wanted it because I told him I've got a Starbucks committed, and so he's all over it. And loan to own. He was one of those loan to own lenders, and just be careful of those guys out there because they
Yeah.
are out.
Yeah.
And
They're out there. Yeah.
yeah,
That's for sure. There's a shark around every corner.
yeah, it's crazy. Can't make it up.
Um, Scott, just real short, what for the listeners here, what are the keys, maybe one or two key critical things to doing creative deals? Somebody who's like, this sounds really cool. Like what are a couple like key things? Just
Honestly, for me, and I tell this to my sons, they're looking at buying another house over in Greenville. I said, you gotta go see the deal, and you've got to meet the owner or the realtor and build that rapport with them first and foremost. Forget
yeah,
about the deal. You got to build that rapport. You got to care about what their problem is, what their solution is. You got
yeah,
to get on the other side.
yeah.
And if there's any one nugget that I could leave, is like every deal I've ever done, I felt good rapport. I bought a $9.5 million house, 40,000 square foot house. Husband and wife getting divorced. Bought the building downtown from the husband. I bought the house from her. So they spent $28 million building this house in Knoxville, Tennessee, which should never had been done. Should have been in California, but it was a good deal. So I'm like a deal jockey. So I said, they was going to auction because nobody wants to buy,
Yeah.
$20 million house in Knoxville,
Not Knoxville.
and it had
Yeah.
it listed for 12 million. And so I negotiated with her, and her attorney's like, for $9.5 million. And I was like, what are you going to do with this money? Because I don't know. I was probably going to turn around and give it to you to invest. I was like, well, why don't I pay $5 million down, which I'm going to go borrow from the bank, and you carry a note for $4.5 million that I'll pay you $1 million a year because I was running a public company and the stock was going up, and I didn't want to sell stock to pay her. And I just laid it all out to her and her attorney. I was like, and that's the deal I'll do. But in a week from now, when you have an auction, I'm not going to be here because I'm not going to bid against myself, and I'm not going to drive the price up. And so you got a bird in the hand versus two in the bushel. So again, it's building that rapport with the seller and their most of the time their attorneys, and just figuring that out. And so it's really, the house I'm in right now, doctor owned it, couldn't sell it. The market wasn't hot years ago, 7 years ago in Knoxville, couldn't sell $3 or $4 million houses. And I went and met with the realtor and said, hey, I know you need paid. I want to do a lease with the option to purchase because I don't even know if I'm going to stay here. I won't be back on the water, and I'll pay your commissions. So you're going to get paid today whenever you negotiate this, and you'll get paid again when I close. So we did a 2-year lease with the option with an extended one more year if I needed a little more time. So it's 20,000 down hard on a $3 million house, 8,000 a month for 2 years. Another 20 if I extended it. By the time the 2 years came, the friggin' markets were hot. The house was worth $5 million. They're trying to tell me I didn't extend it correctly. I'm like, no, I did. So you got to have a good contract, which I did, and we ended up closing on it because I knew the interest rates were going to go up. But again, that deal would have never happened if I hadn't built rapport with that agent, with that broker. I said, I don't want a broker.
Yep.
I don't want commission. I want you to make all the commission, which is juicing him up.
Yep.
And he closed the deal with the seller that he had a relationship with. So
That's
just
awesome.
relationships, man, just
Yeah.
relationships, build that rapport and see the property.
Yeah. Got to get out there, build relationships. You can't build relationships in your office,
No, you
looking
can't
at the
see the
computer
people.
all day.
Yeah. Like your
Um,
son said you did. I watched one of your podcasts and your son, you sit at the computer all day, Dad. I'm going to spend more time with you. That's pretty cool. Good
I do
stuff.
sit at the computer way too long.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Yeah.
Okay,
Teach
so
your son.
last couple questions I got for you. What's a favorite book you can recommend to our listeners?
Uh, Find Your Who by Benjamin Hardy. I think it's called Your Who. That's one of my favorite books because, again, like with me running public companies, like I'm a terrible operator, so I know what I'm good at. I'm good at raising capital. I'm good at building teams, but I'm not good at the sales processes because all these young kids have all these KPIs and OKRs and
Mhm.
all this stuff that they do. And so Benjamin Hardy, find your who, and that was literally I probably read it 3 times.
Yeah,
Again, when you find that person that likes to do what you don't like to do, it just makes life easier, right? Like, you know, everybody hates some part of their life, and that's, if you could find that person to take over that piece, and it's good for everybody.
yeah. I always tell the story when I hired my first bookkeeper. Um, I remember I apologized to her about something with the books, and she's like, "Are you kidding me? I love doing this." And I'm
Oh,
like, "Oh, wow," because
yeah,
I
yeah,
hate it.
yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
wow. I mean, again,
So yeah, it's about finding that who that she loves doing the books. She's good at it. I hated it. And because I hated it, I just would procrastinate and procrastinate.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, again, that's what we do, right? If you get up and I try to get the hardest things, the most difficult things on my to-do list off right off the bat when I wake up, get the
Yep.
coffee, work out, and then go tackle the hardest thing, get it out of the way, and the rest of your day's good.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
Elon Musk is another good book I'd read, but it's a long book. You don't read long books, but I like Elon. I like his outside thinking, and probably my all-time favorite is probably Atomic Habits.
Oh, that's a good book.
James Clear, yeah.
Good
Uh,
stuff. Um, all right, last question, and we got to wrap up here. What are your three pillars of wealth creation?
wow. For me, it's family. It's capital allocation again. But what I mean by family is having a good family network, having a good close ties to all your kids because you don't get them back. They grow
Yeah.
up and do their things, and now they're coming back because it's even better. And lastly, uh, family wealth create family capital allocation when you're doing deals, whether it's structured finance or however, just do that due diligence. Don't allocate to a lot, just do it to a little, and then I guess first and foremost, take action. Get up and do it. Do
Yeah.
something. Most people do not take action. They think about it, think about it, think about it, and that's where dreams go to die when they get up and think about it. Don't
Yeah.
think about it, just do it. And by doing it, you're learning, and you're going to fail. But guess what? You don't fail. You just learn. I bet I've learned 88 times. I've learned too much, but you don't fail. You just learn every time. So you get a PhD in it. And so it becomes natural. And the only way to do that is to get out and do it and
Got to
learn
get
it.
out and do it.
It ain't
Yeah.
going to do it for you. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to do itself. And if you get up and you do it, you're going to make those mistakes, but that's how you learn. That's how you continue to do it. And once you start doing, I feel it just becomes easier to continue to do it, right? It's
done.
that snowball effect that happens so often when we start to do something, it just continues to become almost second nature,
Yeah.
to be able to do it. So yeah,
It
love
becomes
it.
habit, man. I love it.
Well, Scott, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, website, safespaceglobal.ai is my public company. So I'd love to grab some shareholders because again, we've checked 5 of the 6 boxes to uplist to the New York Stock Exchange. So the stock symbol is SSGC. Go look at our team, look at our product that we're solving for the world, and then pitchequityfund.com. If you've got any real estate plays, want any real estate advice, or we have a fund that loans, syndicates into deals as well. So it's pitchequityfund.com. And yeah,
Awesome.
love to talk to you.
Awesome. Scott, really appreciate your time, and listeners reach out. I mean, Scott, as you heard here, is a wealth of knowledge. So check out his websites and reach out again, Scott, man. Yeah, this has been fantastic. Tons of good information. So appreciate you.
Todd, thank you. Been a great day. See you, buddy.
See ya. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.